you remind your colleagues who are out there, possibly they've forgotten to join the event, you can send them a text message to come on board because the meeting is just starting. And without much ado, we have two very able facilitators of this event to whom I want to hand over the event. The beginning session will be chaired by Dennis Nyati. Dennis Nyati is the National Coordinator of GCAP in Zambia. And thereafter, towards the end, it will be chaired by, he will be assisted by Leonard Mandishara. He's also the National Coordinator of GCAP based in Zimbabwe. So allow me, ladies and gentlemen, to welcome Dennis Nyati to take us through this first session. Thank you very much and welcome. Dennis? Dennis Nyati, are you there? All right, may I ask Leonard if he's in to just take over, please?
Okay, thank you so much. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I saw that Dennis was in the waiting room joining the meeting. I think probably by now, because I accepted him to join the meeting. I hope probably by now he has joined. So Dennis, maybe you can start to moderate the first session where we are going to be having speakers, I think in the first section of the meeting. Over to you, Dennis. Yes, Dennis, you can unmute yourself and proceed with the moderation of the first session.
Well, I think in the interest of time, okay, Leonard, it will be good to switch off. Oh, are you there, Dennis?
Yes, I'm there now. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yes, yes. Please go on. Just start off.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. In the interest of time, as Kavengo has rightly put it, I think we'll try to be brief. For the starters, I would like just to welcome all of you to this Africa Virtual People's Assembly, where we are gathering as a continent to deliberate on various developmental issues that are affecting our continent. And so one of the things that I would like to mention before we delve into the business of the day is that it is also important for the participants, especially for the those following across Africa, to utilize the virtual website of the People's Assembly to add your voices. Please utilize the virtual website of the People's Assembly. It has already been set, it's there, and I'm sure at one point our IT people probably will share with us the link to the website. Yes, and just on that, I want now to move on and call upon the co-chair of GCAP, Omar, who also happens to be the GCAP coordinator for Senegal, if he's in, to give us his opening remarks on this Africa People's Assembly. Omar, it's over to you if you are there. Is Omar around?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, so you can go ahead, Omar.
Yes, I'm here. Merci à tout le monde. Je voudrais commencer par féliciter l'organisateur de cet grand événement, Kavengo et tous les autres collègues qui sont aujourd'hui présents. Rappeler tout simplement que la Semaine mondiale d'action est un temps fort pour tout le monde, pour tous les activistes, mais pour toutes les personnes imbues de justice sociale, de justice climatique, de lutte contre les inégalités et de tout ce qui aujourd'hui peut nous rendre d'être dans un monde meilleur. Donc, je ne vais pas trop monopoliser la parole. Je vous souhaite plein succès à toutes vos activités. Je vous demande de renforcer votre engagement parce que nous avons un défi très fort. Nous avons des attentes qui sont là, qui sont présentes. Donc, c'est à nous d'agir au nom de toutes les communautés marginalisées, au nom de toutes les personnes oubliées pour connaître le monde que nous voulons. Un monde qui traverse aujourd'hui une situation extraordinaire à travers la pandémie du Covid. Donc, je vous remercie, chers collègues, et je vous souhaite plein succès à vos travaux. Merci.
Okay, thank you, Omar. We'll now be moving on to our first session, which is on climate justice, climate and environmental justice. And I'll be inviting our two presenters, Mr. Esso and Madam Portia Adu-Mensah, to take up the floor and give us the first presentation. Please be advised that we'll stick to 10 minutes per presentation. Thank you. So I think you will go first.
Oui, allô? Quelqu'un peut m'aider à partager l'écran ou bien je peux aller sans la présentation du PowerPoint? Allô?
Yes, Esso?
Oui, quelqu'un peut partager l'écran par rapport à mon PowerPoint ou bien... Ingo, tu peux partager mon PowerPoint?
Maybe Dennis?
I can share it if you let me know which one it is, because I have many for the session.
Yes, Ingo?
Can I just ask if the interpretation, if the translation is clear to everybody? Because the one thing is that also if you want to listen to the English translation, you need to click on interpretation at the bottom right corner and then choose English. And I also would like to request...
Pour la présentation, la traduction, elle est bonne en français, mais elle est très basse. Il faut mettre un peu de volume. Merci.
Yeah, so that's another point for the interpreters. It needs to be a bit stronger. So,
ça, c'est la présentation de Raisa. Il faut plutôt passer la présentation de Esso.
The interpretation of Raisa is a bit too low. So if you can be closer to the micro. The other question, if Anaël or if you could explain in French, I think it might be easier for people to understand.
Oui, est-ce que vous m'entendez? Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Donc pour tous les francophones, vous avez vous pouvez écouter toute la session bien sûr en français en cliquant sur le globe en bas à droite dans la barre du Zoom et choisir donc la langue française pour avoir toute la session en français. Donc, vous pouvez bien sûr avoir toutes les traductions possibles.
D'accord, merci. Mais est-ce qu'on peut changer de PowerPoint? Ce n'est pas mon PowerPoint, ça.
So, Rose, this is not the right PowerPoint. You have... Which one is...
Which one is it?
C'est quel Esso? Peut-être, maybe I think it's in the second row, the third from the left.
Le bleu
The
vert
blue one,
jaune.
yeah.
Le bleu
This
vert
one,
jaune.
yeah.
Okay.
D'accord. Merci tout le monde et je dis bonjour particulièrement à Ingo et à toute son équipe et qui ont réussi malgré la situation de la pandémie et à nous faire vivre le Global Week of Action en ligne. Je pense que c'est une très belle initiative qui est innovante. Je m'appelle Esso Pedesi, je suis le responsable de l'ONG Jeunes Verts et également je représente l'équipe de JGEP au Togo et de Action for Sustainable Development. Donc ma présentation va consister à parler des changements climatiques, de l'injustice climatique et puis des vulnérabilités au niveau du Togo. D'abord, ce qu'il faut retenir, c'est que le Togo est un pays qui est limité par le Burkina, et au nord, à l'ouest par le Ghana, et à l'est par le Bénin, au sud par l'océan Atlantique. Le climat du Togo est en quelque sorte en 4 saisons, et la température annuelle moyenne au niveau du Togo est de 27 degrés Celsius. Les événements climatiques au Togo, on peut dire que les observations du climat au Togo sur la période de 1961 à 2012 révèlent sans équivoque une augmentation des températures de l'ordre de 1 degré Celsius, ce qui entraîne tellement de dégâts au niveau du pays. Section suivante. Allô? Encore l'autre slide. Donc, les secteurs de vulnérabilité au niveau du Togo sont à 5 points. D'abord, il y a le domaine de l'agriculture et la sécurité alimentaire, il y a la santé, les ressources en eau, les infrastructures de transport et habitat, et puis l'impact également au niveau de l'économie. Quand nous prenons l'aspect de l'agriculture et la sécurité alimentaire, nous notons principalement les questions de sécheresse, et qui entraînent des baisses de la pluviométrie, les baisses de rendement agricole, et la famine et l'insécurité alimentaire. Et il y a également les fortes pluviométries qui entraînent des inondations, des dévastations des champs, des pertes de culture et de récoltes. Nous avons également l'impact sur la santé qui entraîne beaucoup de maladies, comme par exemple les toux, les bronchites et puis le paludisme qui est très récurrent dans nos milieux, également le choléra. Suivant. Voilà. Il y a également l'impact des changements climatiques sur l'habitat et les infrastructures. Et au Togo, par exemple, dans les années 2008-2010, les inondations qui ont amené à diviser le pays en deux. Et il y a le pont d'Amapapé qui a divisé tout le pays en deux, ce qui fait que ceux du nord n'arrivaient plus à aller au sud et ceux du sud également n'arrivaient plus à aller au nord. Et ces inondations ont eu énormément d'impact sur l'économie et à peu près plus de 2 milliards de francs CFA ont été dépensés pour arranger les dégâts qui ont dû à cette inondation. Donc, ceci pour démontrer à peu près l'impact que les changements climatiques peuvent avoir sur l'économie et dans un pays comme le Togo qui n'a pas encore une stabilité économique. Nous avons également l'impact sur les ressources en eau, car le changement climatique est susceptible d'engendrer une profonde perturbation de la disponibilité des ressources en eau, touchant par conséquent de nombreux secteurs, l'industrie, la production énergétique, l'agriculture, l'eau potable, et puis également les questions d'assainissement. Suivant. Et face à tout ce défi-là, il y a les organisations de la société civile au niveau du Togo qui mènent quand même des actions pour pouvoir aider ou du moins accompagner les communautés à une résilience sur ces différentes questions de changement climatique. Et particulièrement, il y a notre ONG en partenariat avec TGEP Togo et puis d'autres organisations de la plateforme. Nous avons initié plusieurs programmes. Et depuis 2015, avec Action en 2015, nous avons eu à toucher la plupart des autorités sur toute l'étendue du territoire. Et nous avons fait appel à la volonté politique sur les questions phares de JGEP, les questions de pauvreté, les questions d'injustice et les questions de genre et également les questions de changement climatique. Donc, cela a permis d'avoir une certaine compréhension de façon générale sur ces différentes questions et ça les a également aidés à pouvoir intégrer les ODD dans leurs différentes politiques et programmes de développement. Et ce qui fait qu'aujourd'hui, au niveau du Togo, partout où tu passes, quand tu parles des ODD, et beaucoup de personnes ont quand même certaines connaissances par rapport à ça. Et au niveau du gouvernement également, il y a beaucoup de choses qui se font, notamment les CDN, puisque le Togo adhère à l'accord de Paris. Donc, le Togo a rédigé ses contributions pour pouvoir réduire les émissions de gaz à effet de serre à peu près à 31,14% à l'horizon 2030, y compris une réduction volontaire de l'ordre de 11%. Donc, les secteurs indiqués pour réaliser ces objectifs de réduction de gaz à effet de serre sont des secteurs clés de l'économie togolaise, à savoir l'énergie, qui représente 15%, l'agriculture 21%, et la foresterie et autres utilisations de terres 64%. Et les secteurs les plus vulnérables où les besoins d'adaptation sont nécessaires sont notamment l'énergie, l'agriculture, les établissements humains, la santé, les ressources en eau, les zones côtières, et la foresterie et autres utilisations de terres. Mais ce qu'il faut noter, c'est que les personnes qui sont vraiment très marginalisées dans ces questions de changement climatique, c'est plus les personnes qui sont dans les milieux reculés. Donc, c'est en majorité des femmes et puis des enfants sur lesquels les impacts sont tellement lourds. Et Jeunes, Verts et puis tous ces partenaires travaillent sur cet aspect pour que ces personnes-là ne soient plus marginalisées. Donc, il y a une étude récente qui est sortie, donc la performance du gouvernement sur les conditions de vie au Togo. Vous voyez que sur, suivant, le dernier slide, s'il vous plaît. Le dernier slide. Encore. Voilà. Donc, je disais qu'une étude récente est sortie sur la performance du gouvernement sur les conditions de vie. Vous allez voir qu'au Togo, il y a au moins 70% de Togolais qui sont insatisfaits sur la réduction du fossé entre les riches et les pauvres. Il y a 73% des Togolais qui sont insatisfaits de l'amélioration des conditions de vie des pauvres. Donc, du coup, ça démontre un peu cet exposé-là que je viens de faire. Et je parlais tantôt des actions que nous avons eu à faire. Donc, sur ces photos, vous voyez des actions de plaidoyer envers différents acteurs pour pouvoir demander la justice climatique afin que les personnes vulnérables, les personnes marginalisées puissent être prises en compte dans tous les programmes et politiques de développement du pays. Et merci et à tout à l'heure.
Thank you, Esso. Thank you, Esso, for that wonderful presentation. Very inspiring. A lot we can see is happening there in Togo around issues of climate change and climate justice. And I think we are learning a lot. We have learned a lot from that. Very inspiring presentation from you. Without wasting much of your time, I think for now, let us call upon our second presenter, Madam Portia Adu-Mensah from Ghana. Madam Mensah, so over to you now. Hello? Hello?
Please, can you see my screen?
Okay.
Please, can you see my screen?
No.
Sorry for, okay.
If you have slides, I can share them for you if you want. Just
Okay.
tell me which
Yeah.
one it is. Oh no, you've got it working. I can see your screen now.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, great.
Okay. All right, so basically, my name is Portia and I'm from Ghana. I'm talking about climate justice and the environment. So in Ghana here, we have climate change, which is a large part of our exploration. And the various climate impacts we have is drought, flood, sea erosion as part of the main drivers. The most affected sectors in Ghana include the economic, social, infrastructure groups. Environmental justice is important because it has a basic human right. It allows everyone to have some level of agency over the decision and the impact to their lives. So we say that pollution and climate change has more stripped many of our communities the rights to their most basic needs, such as clean water, food, air, and safe housing. The agriculture sector of Ghana is most vulnerable to climate depending on rainfall. So you of the times we don't have the system whereby you can have the rain drainage techniques that you can use. So it's a big deal for farmers when it comes to the change in weather patterns. So children living in poverty have the risk from the these affected environments, which is a hazard for them. As a living hazardous environment affects their health. So there are so many communities that because of climate issues and the impact it's having on the children, it affects their health. Mitigation and adaptation is the way to manage climate change and the environment. So we need to look into alternative energy production, carbon capture, planting trees, international agreements. So where polluters must pay, change in agriculture system, teach our farmers to come up with innovative ways to be able to meet up in case there is any climate change, managing water supply, reducing the risk from sea levels. So one of the key things that works in Ghana here is with the nationally determinant contributors. So Ghana has put forward mitigation and adaptation action in its intended NDCs. The inclusion of both mitigation and adaptation in the NDC resonates with the medium-term development agenda shared in the growth development agenda. So we as activists, we went to 5 districts in Ghana to train them about what their medium-term development plan is and how they can relate to it as and make sure in their districts they make that impact that is required under the NDCs. So this year we are looking forward to go regional to be able to educate the indigents as well. So Ghana shared the growth development agenda and anticipated 40 years socio-economic transformational plan and the universal sustainability development goals. In all, 20 mitigations and 11 adaptation programs of action. 1 in 7 priority economic sectors are being proposed for the implementation in the 10-year period. Hello?
Yes.
Hello? Yes. So the implementation of the actions are expected to help attain carbon climate resilience through the affected and adaptation greenhouse gases emissions reduction in the following priorities. So sustainable land use, including food security, climate-proof infrastructure, equitable social development, sustainable mass transportation, sustainable energy security, sustainable forest management, and alternative urban waste management. So we believe that at the grassroots level, as advocates, we go to schools to teach them about the SDGs and what they are expected to do and then what the future holds. We went to some of the fishery communities to also teach them and do some learnings and tell them about what climate change is and how they can, because one of the highest things happening here in Ghana is the rise in sea levels, and then the pollution, which is a big deal for fisher folks. So we needed to teach them about other adaptation measures they can work with. So I'd like to thank the organization for this opportunity, and thank you.
You are welcome. Thank you very much, Portia.
Thank you too. Thank you.
That was a
I'll be
wonderful
up for any
presentation.
questions.
Okay. I think for
Thank you.
now, we are not going to allow questions for now because we don't have enough time. So those who have questions,
Okay.
please, can you post them in the
Chats?
comments? Yeah, in the chat, so that the presenters can look at that later. Okay.
Thank you
So,
very much. I'm grateful.
thank you, Portia. So for questions and comments, post them in the chat. For comments and questions, please post them in the chat. Let us now move to our last speaker in this segment before we move to the other section, which will be moderated by my colleague from Zimbabwe. Let me call upon Elvis from Challenge International Togo to give his presentation on civic space and human rights. It's over to you, Elvis. 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 Is Elvis here? Looks like he's not around. Okay. If Elvis is not around, then I'll pass on the mantle to Leonard to moderate the other section.
Allô, bonjour. Allô, excusez.
Yes, Leonard, you can go ahead.
Yeah, Dennis, I think there's someone who wants to have an intervention. Maybe it could be someone who has been nominated to replace Elvis. Maybe if you can give that person a chance to come in. I realized that there was someone who wanted to come and have an intervention. Is it on the same presentation on civic space?
Oui, c'est moi. C'est pour parler de Elvis. Je pense qu'il a quelques soucis de connexion. Donc, je pense que c'est mieux de passer à l'étape suivante en attendant que cela se règle. Je ne sais pas si vous m'entendez, vous me recevez.
Okay, it's okay, fine. Thank you so much. Thank you, Jeunes, for passing on the baton stick to me to then proceed with the moderating today's event, where we are having the Africa Regional People's Assembly, and indeed we are receiving quite interesting presentations across the breadth of Africa, and these are important to then assist us even in today's discussion. So as we move on, allow me, ladies and gentlemen, to call upon Mr. Martin Kapenda, who is going to give a presentation on the financing for development, Africa and foreign debt. I think this is very important, as we know that to fund and support the SDGs, we really need funding. So I call upon Martin to come and make his presentation. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'd like to talk about, let me start by introducing myself. I'm Martin Kapenda. I'm part of Micah Global, which is a faith-based organization that is global in nature and focuses on issues of mobilizing faith-based voices to participate in issues of poverty reduction and global development. The national coordinator based in Zambia. So today I want to talk about prudent public debt management in Africa. Now, when we talk about debt in Africa, this is something that everyone agrees on, that most parts of African continent are in a debt distress situation. I don't want to belabor that point to start to repeat the same figures that most of us could be aware of at our national levels. But what I want to talk about is the issue of transparency and accountability. That is a very big challenge in debt management in Africa. There are three challenges associated with recording and reporting debt in most African countries. The African Development Bank, one of their sharings last year, they pointed out that there are three areas that most African countries are struggling with recording debt and also reporting their debt situation. First, it has to do with the human resource capacity. In a number of countries, there are lack of technical skills that could be utilized to be able to give a correct position of what the debt portfolio at the national level is all about. And then there's a capacity gap in terms of debt recording systems. Again, in most countries, there are inadequate legal frameworks that would compel the central government to be able to show and account for every debt that they have contracted. Thirdly, we have a problem of lack of systems and procedures to track debts. Therefore, you can say that the failure to record and report on debt is an evolving challenge that is mainly premised on issues to do with capacity at national level. And this is where we find that there are challenges that could be associated, even for those of us that are in the civil society, when we do want to do our campaign and then track what debts are being contracted at national level. I'm having a problem. My slide is no longer responding. Let me stop sharing for now and put it back again. Now, when you have lack of budget transparency, this again is a very big challenge in most countries because you don't know how much your nation is owing. And then one of the things that you find that is associated with lack of transparency is that the structure of African debt is evolving, because in the past, most of the countries could only be getting their monies from the Paris clubs, institutions. But now you have private creditors that have entered the market. And then on the other hand, you have the dominance of China in infrastructure loans, which is also becoming problematic. On the flip side, if there was transparency on debt contraction, you'd find that policymakers would be able to make informed and sound borrowing decisions. But creditors, donors, rating agencies need transparent information and data to assess the financial needs and creditworthiness of the borrower. Legislators and the general public would also require transparent information to make government accountable on its fiscal policy and decisions to reduce corruption when it comes to some of the debts that are associated with infrastructure. And then one of the problems that we find across Africa is the challenges of undisclosed debt. It is said that there's a growing hidden debt that can be associated with the money coming from China. What China has been able to publish, 50% of it is actually like hidden debt. Right here in Zambia, there's been this controversy. We have a new government that has come in power, and they have accused the previous government of hidden debt. The previous government has come out and said, we disclosed everything. And you can see it's not just a problem of Zambia, but many African countries. We have had stories from, say, Mozambique, Cameroon, Chad, and many others, whereby even their sovereign ratings have been affected because the story about their debt is not very clear. What they are reporting is incomplete, and no one would know. Even today in Zambia, I can't get the final figure of how much the country owes international institutions, the private lenders, because some debts are not being accounted for. The problem of the hidden debt is actually what is undermining transparency on tracking the debt in most African countries. As most countries are increasingly reliant on Chinese loans, and you see this shift from multinational and bilateral Paris Club loans, and they are getting into these infrastructure loans with China, there is a problem that is starting to emerge in Africa that we don't know what our countries are owing, and it's becoming very difficult to track that. Limited transparency, which leads to accurate data on loan conditions, tend to create incentives for kickbacks and inflated projects, and also the problem of corruption. Let me briefly, as I conclude, talk about the case of Zambia. Zambia's debt situation over the past years, Zambia's debt situation has been a major topic of discussion, locally and internationally. In 2011, Zambia recorded its debt portfolio at about 3.5 billion. But when you fast forward to 2018, this has risen to almost 14.1 billion. Other people can tell you that our debts are as high as 33 billion, because some debts, they're not disclosed. Some of them are associated with entities that are owned by the government, like electricity companies. It could be other private companies that are associated with the government, and the government would say these are not sovereign debts, but then they are contracted in the name of the state. And this grows to levels where the country is now under stress because we have borrowed beyond our means to pay back. And that is a very big problem for the future generation. Even the current generation, we find that the new government is continuing to have the excuse of saying we can't meet some of the promises that we made because the debt is just too big. In Zambia, government debt to GDP has increased to almost 91.9% in 2019 from 77.2% in 2018. And this is official news from the Bank of Zambia. And it's for this. Yes.
You are left with a minute. You are left with
Yeah.
a minute to conclude.
Yes. And it's for this reason that Micah and Jacob Zambia are working together to lead a campaign on the debt situation, because we've realized that many people are not so much focusing on this elephant in the room that is affecting service delivery. It is affecting the integrity of our national budget, affecting our response to poverty reduction, and many other things that are in the country, because debt is just sounding to be a very big thing that we all need to confront. And this campaign that we are leading and drawing in many others is really to galvanize our voices to a level where we can call for more transparency in how we contract the debts before we can even ask about debt forgiveness. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Martin, for an elaborate presentation that managed to touch on the key aspects with regards financing for development, and in particular, the issue of debt. So, ladies and gentlemen, I think as we continue to receive this key presentation, I would want to encourage us to be very much active on the chat platform. I think we need to be using the chat platform to share our assessment. Also, if you have any questions for clarity that we want to raise, I strongly encourage you to use the chat platform. As we proceed to move on to the next session, we are going to be receiving 3 presentations under the People's Vaccine and Health. And to kickstart our presentation in that session, I'm calling upon Miss Patricia to come and give us a presentation on the COVID Watch Africa, and we are going to be giving you strictly 10 minutes to deliver your presentation. Over to you, Patricia.
Thank you, Leonard. Greetings to everyone.
No, we'll leave us.
I hope you can hear me properly. This is Patricia. Leonard,
Yes,
can you hear me?
Yes, I can confirm that we can hear you. We can proceed. I also want to encourage participants to please ensure that you are on mute every time so that we don't get necessary feedback. You can proceed, Patricia.
I have to test out before they charge. Oh no, that one is
I still have a mic that is on and I can hear the background noise. Okay, perfect. I am Patricia. I'm coming to this call from COVID Watch Africa here in Johannesburg, South Africa. Just to give you a preamble about COVID Watch. This is a platform. We pretty much work virtually, and we started sometime back in April 2020. It's safe to say that before the pandemic, the organization did not exist, which is clear. And we have our roots back in Togo from Jeunes, where our first leadership was launched in April 2020. We do projects around the protection of civic space, the promotion of human rights and good governance, all under the context of COVID-19. We have the same platform that showcases so much about the different civic restrictions, travel restrictions, official government resources. We have a data explorer that will show you more about the spread of the virus on the continent. And now we are looking so much into the vaccination processes, the exercises that are happening across the African continent, as well as the funds tracking, looking at how much money has been received on the African continent as a COVID-19 relief funds, and how governments are using this money. And also we look also at accountability and transparencies under the COVID-19 relief funds received on the African continent. Let me do this. Today, we are looking at COVID-19 vaccine inequalities. And just to mention to you, we look at this as the equal rollout and distribution of vaccines to countries across the globe. And in this context, I will just only look at Africa, so much as our mandate really talks about Africa. And we look at how much or how many doses are we getting, or how are we able to distribute the vaccines to, to low-income countries, especially those in Africa and other parts or other continents. To address this, okay, something has happened with my slide. I'm not able to. I'm going to stop sharing, then I'll start again. I think there is an issue because, okay, I'll do this again. Okay, to answer the questions or to explain more on COVID-19 vaccine inequalities, I have a set of questions that I'll be answering and will also maybe help you understand what we've done at COVID Watch Africa with the curation of the information that we get on the website. We do have a portal, Citizen Watch, where we get reports, like these are real-time reports from across the continent and beyond, people telling us about the inequalities that they've seen, the registered cases on civic space and the promotion of human rights in the different constitutions or communities. What percentage of the population in Africa has been vaccinated and what is the target? This could be a question that we've seen the Africa CDC answering, we've seen the World Health Organization issuing reports about, and according to the Africa CDC, we do know that Africa has a population of 1.37 billion people, and they did have this target of having at least 40% of this population vaccinated by the end of 2021. And we are now like, a few minutes to December, meaning that we are very close to finishing this year. And only, you could say, you could round up the 1.75 to only 2% of the 1.37 billion people have been vaccinated. So you see there is a gap, and this has only been brought about the obvious factors that we've been seeing holding this vaccine in different, well, you could say that developed economies are not really able to share the vaccines back on the continent to help the developing countries. And this only does not affect Africa. You're looking at other continents, even in Asia, we have cases where you have a deficit of the vaccines. We do have willing countries in Africa that do want this vaccine, but you're looking at a disequilibrium, you're looking at the shortages, you're looking at, you have districts in African countries where they will tell you, you go to this hospital and they will tell you that, yeah, we do have a set of people that took the first shot, but we are still waiting for them to get the second shot, and then we'll start rolling out for the for a whole new batch. So we do have that, the shortage in the demand and supply of the vaccine on the continent. And then I have another question where you look at what is the effect of these inequalities on the global recovery. In what way can Africa's shortfall affect the rest of the world? It is safe to say that Africa is not really a small continent. So if you decide to vaccinate everyone else and leave out this other continent that has, big players, I don't think you're helping much. You're not really helping you're not working to end the pandemic, but you're just keeping things as they are, which is quite unfair. To answer this also, we've seen different reports, you've seen different speakers talking about this. What is Africa's shortfall? What is the effect that it will have on the rest of the world? And the response to this should be guided by science and well-researched processes. This is the only way that we can hope to address this pandemic and recover from it in the shortest time possible that we wish, because you wake up and you're like, maybe by next year, the pandemic will be gone. But do we have, we found the remedy, we found the vaccine. Is it accessible to everyone else? Are we able to all have access to these vaccines? And you'll also learn that while in Africa, we are still struggling, I'm sorry, I'm fully vaccinated, but we are still having people that have not even gotten the first shot. but then you still have now countries that now are, you know, investing more in boosters. We are not saying that this is a redundant topic. Like, we're not saying that boosters are useless. No, I'm sure the person that is investing in them, making them, taking them has their reasons, but we are only looking at divided resources that could have been used to produce more vaccines and, you know, share and let everyone have these vaccines. But instead we are having people, I would not call this greed because they're within their rights to do what they're doing, but where is the empathy? Where is the Ubuntu? Can we share the little that we have with the rest of the developing countries? Let's all first fight the first, you know, the first problem before we now first, you know, we go to investing in boosters and the rest. The other question would be, what is Africa CDC and the World Health Organization doing or saying? You know, everyone would be interested to know if we are facing a shortage of vaccines on the continent, what are these people doing or saying? Now, from our reports as Africa, COVID Watch Africa, if you do visit our website, you will also realize that we do have charts where we show you, we could not say that these countries have like fully vaccinated their people, but they have at least surpassed the 50% margin. And this was yesterday, but as of today, Mauritius is #1 with all the fully vaccinated people. So you have Seychelles and Mauritius having at least the bigger percentage of the population vaccinated. And then you have even the few doses that have been sent on the continent, at least they've been seen be going to Morocco, Nigeria, Ethiopia, Egypt, Kenya, Ghana, Zimbabwe, you've got Angola, Tunisia, and Senegal. Now, these are just like a pebble out of thousands of other pebbles. So we still have a long way to go. And we still need to find ways to spread these doses so that everyone is able at least to get vaccinated, get the 2 shots. And at least once we have that level of immunity, then we can now stop. We can now look at the next level. Can we now look at the boosters? Can we see how to look at the different variants that will be coming up? Because you'll also realize that the reports that we are getting are reports that are got from these countries that don't even have access to the first dose. So it is not a very good situation that we are facing here in Africa, and we really hope that things could be different.
Yeah, you should be concluding in the next minute.
We really hope things could be different. Thank you, and we do hope things will be different. I also look at the impact or the views from the IMF. They're also saying the same thing. Without Africa being vaccinated, then there is nothing that is going to be done that will be helping in the overall. Just to wrap up this, can we look at what is Africa's potential to recover from this recession? Is Africa able to actually do better? And the answer is yes. And the only way we can get out of this is tech transfer. We need to get the technology transfer from these developed countries. If we can have more production centers in Africa, we have Egypt already doing this. We have South Africa and Rwanda coming on board. If we can have more countries showing the initiative to produce more vaccines on the continent, then we can bridge the gap that the inequalities are already prophesying, already manifesting. And yeah, just also wrap up, the only thing I can say that will save us is tech transfer and the expertise transfer on the continent so that we can produce our own vaccines where we don't have to beg and hope to be saved. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Patricia, for an elaborate presentation. I think you managed to put on the forefront the issues around vaccines in Africa, the trajectory, and also our experiences as Africa. Let us move on, and at this point in time, I would want to call upon Mr. Titus Musyoka to also come and make his submission around the people's vaccine and health. Are you there, Mr. Titus? You can come in.
Hello, good afternoon. You can hear me now? So my name is Titus Musyoka, and I represent a CBO, a community-based organization based in Kenya, in Makueni County. As a CBO, our main mandate is to empower and improve the quality of life of the local people through sustainable local development initiatives, youth sports, issues of self-reliance and mobility, issues of women empowerment, and also issues of social inclusion. We organize sports, talent, and education. When we look at the situation in Kenya, we have a population of about 53 million people, and Kenya is still one of the 50 poorest countries in the world. Ravaging coronavirus pandemic, many livelihoods have been lost, and we have also so many income streams stopped by the coronavirus pandemic. We have had issues of lockdowns, we have issues of economic meltdowns and all that. So our situation in Kenya, we're looking at, as at yesterday, 20th of September, 2021. As a country, we reported 643,000 cases. And the deaths, so far, we are talking about 4,990. Look at our situation. The uptake of the vaccine is quite low. We have only 3.2% of the Kenyan population being fully vaccinated. Here we're talking about the adults. So, and where I come from, that is in one of the remote places in Makueni County, we are only talking about 1.1% of adults being vaccinated. So as a CBO, we have noted the inequalities of the vaccine, of the COVID-19 vaccine as follows. One, only 3.2% as I've alluded of the population have been vaccinated. And most of the people in the rural areas are not aware of where to get the vaccine. They know the vaccine is around, but they're not aware of where to get the vaccine. Secondly, when we talk about the availability of the vaccine, it is in the sub-county hospitals, which are beyond reach for most of the most vulnerable people in our society. Here we're talking about the elderly, the people with disabilities, the widows, and the radius that they should cover, rather the radius covered by the sub-county hospitals is about 30 kilometers. For you to access the hospital, you may need to use up to $4. And that prohibits many people from going to the sub-county hospitals to be able to get the vaccine. There's also a lot of stigma that is associated with the vaccine, and especially the youth. You know, with social media, a lot of things have been circulated. So the youth are the most skeptical when it comes to getting the vaccine. So, and they are passing the same information to their parents, and thus you find that the stigma is out there and people are not willing to go out. The other thing is we have the high poverty levels. This prohibits the affordability of a number of things. You find that one is torn between buying a new mask, transport to the hospital, and also buying basic food. So one would choose the latter. They would rather prioritize food other than issues of fighting the COVID-19. As a CBO, what action do we propose? We have proposed that the government will need to move closer to the people, and especially the vulnerables, which I've basically mentioned, those that also with medical conditions. So the government needs to move this vaccine closest to the people. A lot of awareness is needed so that the stigma can be alleviated, because unless people are educated and awareness is made, then the stigma will be there that people will not be willing to get vaccinated. The other thing is we need to empower our communities with incentives and urgently so that most families that have been rendered are vulnerable because of the pandemic can get alternative sources of income. You find in families where somebody was working in the city has been hit by the coronavirus. He was the only breadwinner of the family, so that family becomes vulnerable. So community empowerment incentives will be required. The other thing is we need development partners and the World Health Organization to also increase the availability of these vaccines, and especially in the poor nations. As a country, I've mentioned we are only at 3.2, and that is not enough. So more is required so that more people can also get vaccinated. The other thing is for the government to invest in issues of water. This will increase sanitation and also agricultural activities so that the people can be more empowered. What have we done as a CBO? We have organized COVID-19 vaccination campaigns, and in the most remote villages where there's even no electricity. And this one we have done in collaboration with the sub-county hospitals. They come with their cool boxes, and then we mobilize the communities through the schools, through the churches, through the local administrators, the chiefs, so that the awareness is out there and people are able to come and get their doses. In the last 2 weeks, we've seen more than 700 people getting the vaccines in the most remote villages. We have also helped in distribute masks.
Yes. Yeah, please. I think you should be now preparing to round up your presentation.
Yeah, I'm in the last slide. We distributed masks for those who cannot afford. We have petitioned the government through the local leaders and in the letter of action. We have also organized people's assembly so that the people can air their voices and their grievances to be heard by the government. I will show you a few pictures. You can see this is an event that local chief flag off the vaccination campaign. We had all people from like PWB, the peoples with disabilities turning up also for the vaccination. And the last slide there, you can see some of the members of the Ahadi Achievers volunteer team that participated in the event. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much, Titus, for insightful presentation. I think you also managed to give us an appreciation of how things are happening, you know, in the land of Kenya. We really appreciate your presentation. So in the interest of time, allow me, ladies and gentlemen, to proceed to call upon Karim to also make his submission before we call on Ingo. And in the same time, Ingo, I want also to encourage you to also prepare to make your presentation. Over to you, Karim. it seems Karim is not on the platform. So in that regard, may I call upon Mr. Ingo to come in and make his intervention. Over to you, Ingo.
Yes, thank you, Leonard. So as we have heard now in the two presentations on the vaccination, there's very low vaccination rates in Africa. So therefore, as GCAP, we are part of the Global People's Vaccines Alliance. So there, as you know, we are meeting here in the People's Assembly as in parallel to the UN General Assembly. And actually, President Biden has called for a vaccine summit tomorrow at the UNGA. And for that, we are in contact with some of the people like Gordon Brown, the former Prime Minister of the UK, who was just appointed from the World Health Organization to work on the financing for the vaccines. So we would like to do a push for more vaccines. Of course, the TRIPS waiver is very important to increase the production. But in the meantime, also, we would like to ensure that there are enough vaccines and enough financing for all countries. So the African continent is one of the continents with the lowest rates, or actually there is the lowest rates. We have prepared this document, which I have shared here in the chat. I hope you can see this. Let me also share my screen. Let me see whether you can see my screen here. So this is basically based on the Great Recovery letter we have prepared with many organizations in May, June for the G7 summit, and we have now adjusted it for the UN General Assembly. You can see it here, and if you go into the link, you can also read it maybe better. So the key demands are to cover at least 60% of the global cost of delivering free vaccines for all, immediately start dose sharing with other countries and using existing G7 country supplies, and finalize a temporary waiver. So those are the key demands. Here we have the description of the situation. So this was something, an initiative which started only yesterday, so it's very short. My question to you is if you think this is fine. So in that we would like to send it this afternoon to publish this letter. So it would be good if some of you, also Patricia and Karim and others, could read and see whether this is okay for you. You could also do some adjustments. So yeah, if actually, if possible, it would be great if the African Assembly could basically support this. This would give a bit more of strength.
Hello, has Ingo started?
Yes, so you cannot hear me? Yes, Leonard, basically that's my presentation. Yeah, maybe good to get also some inputs or questions.
This is Kavengo. Leonard, if I can speak with your permission, please.
Okay, it's okay. You can come in.
Yeah, just to add on to what Ingo is saying, the major highlights of this letter is to, among others, to request that there is coverage of at least 60% of the global cost of delivering free vaccines for all. As you have heard from the last two speakers, that is Patricia and Titus, have spoken about what is really happening on the ground, that quite a big number of people have not been vaccinated. Some are not aware, and ignorance does not mean that they will not get infected. They will get infected and also infect others. So this letter is, in part, is calling for coverage of about 60% cost in delivering free vaccines to especially the most vulnerable populations wherever they are across the world, and quite a good number of that population or proportion is here in Africa. And then the other highlight is requesting for immediate start of dose sharing with other countries using existing G7 country supplies. And I think Patricia also spoke quite eloquently about this, that even though countries have a right to vaccinate their own people, whichever way, and protect them the best way, we know this virus did not originated on only one part of the world, but it is now everywhere in the world. So it is false of any country. It is scientifically false of any country to imagine that it can protect itself from this virus by protecting its own people and leaving out others. It is a scientific lie. It will never be possible, because it's just a matter of time before a new strain of the same vaccine finds its way back to the same population and wreak havoc. So this letter is calling for, among others, to be considerate in sharing these doses across the world. And finally, the other highlight is finalize a temporary waiver of intellectual property protection on all COVID-19 technologies, and ensure the vaccine know-how it is shared as soon as all is possible. So in other words, we appreciate the intellectual property that has resulted into this vaccine. But then this is a global crisis, and it's not just a crisis, it's a lethal thing. So to stick so hard about intellectual property rights and ignore the fact that this thing is killing, even those who have a right to this vaccine can be killed by itself, by the same virus. So some of these things, arguments don't seem to make much sense, and people need to rise up and drum up support for a letter like this one to make sure that governments that are hoarding vaccine in the name of intellectual property rights, in the name of protecting their own people, in the name of imposing very strict travel bans, the viruses will still get there somehow from those parts they have segregated against getting the vaccine. So let the world leaders be told that, and they are presiding over governments that are treating the other parts of the world in a very illegal way. Let them know that this is a shared crisis. It's no longer, nobody is safe unless everybody is safe everywhere in the world. It doesn't matter the status of, it has killed people, and it continues to kill people across the economic ladder. So please, I'm proposing that a forum like this one would be good to try and throw our weight for a letter of this nature, so that it can receive the blessing from our forum, and that it can be forwarded to those people in high decision-making places that are overseeing some of these practices that are slowing down the effects or the spread of the virus by holding to false positions that even science is cannot approve of them. So let me stop at that, Chair, but I just wanted to add my weight and voice to what Ingo said. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much, Kavengo, and also thank you so much to Ingo. I think you have made the point clear that this is a very effective instrument that we need to adopt even at Africa Assembly and even at international level, because it is key issues that we need to look at, so that at least it opens up opportunities, especially for the developed and for the developing countries where we are lagging behind in terms of access to the vaccines. So what I would want now to call upon even the participants is that let us also use the chat platform, the presentation by Ingo, and also the buttressing points from Kavengo. I think they've been clear enough. So we want now to also demonstrate our voice through the chat platform. Let us comment, let us hear our views, let us also support this process, if you have any ideas that you'd want us to also adopt in this process to enhance the effectiveness of this important instrument, let us share our views and our ideas. I think we are in this together so that at least we have a better nation. We also have the better world. Thank you so much, Ingo and Kavengo. So we can proceed, but let us be active on the chat platform to contribute and also to air our views. We want now to go to the last segment where we are going to be focusing on income inequalities and loss of livelihoods. And for that, we are going to be having two presenters who are going to take us through some of the key aspects with regards issues to do with income inequalities and loss of livelihoods. To begin with, let me call upon Mr. Oyebisi Olusei to come and make his submission. Are you there, Mr. Olusei? It seems Mr. Olusei is yet to join the meeting. Let me call upon Ms. Raisa from Community Development Expert Togo, if you are there to come and make your submission.
D'accord, merci. Bonjour à tous. J'espère que vous me recevez. Alors, est-ce que on peut passer ma présentation, s'il vous
Yes, we
plaît?
can hear you and you can proceed.
Ok, d'accord. Ma présentation. Bon, je vais commencer
Yeah, of
en
course.
attendant.
Could you let me know which one it is, please?
Raisa, est-ce que vous pouvez dire c'est quelle présentation?
Inégalité de revenus. Voilà, le vert. Le
The
premier
green one, yeah. Is this one?
Oui,
Yeah.
c'est ça.
Oui, c'est ça.
Yes.
Merci.
Ok, bonjour à tous. Je m'appelle Raisa Oureya. Je suis responsable de programme au sein de l'ONG Jeunes Verts et je fais une présentation sur les inégalités de revenus et les moyens de subsistance. Donc, je vais plus m'attarder dans le domaine des catastrophes parce que actuellement, nous travaillons sur un programme, le programme Vue de Front qui permet de renforcer la résilience des populations suite aux catastrophes naturelles. Et également, je vais me spécifier au Togo. Donc, Monsieur Esso, Pedesi l'avait déjà fait, mais je vais juste reprendre quelques notions et aller de façon brève. Donc, le Togo est un pays de l'Afrique de l'Ouest qui est situé entre le Burkina, le Bénin et le Ghana, et au sud par l'océan Atlantique. Donc, c'est un tout petit pays qui s'étend sur une superficie de 57 785 km² et qui a environ une population de 7 millions d'habitants. En termes le contexte social est caractérisé par une pauvreté accrue, dont le Togo fait partie de l'un des pays les plus pauvres au monde. Et cet indice de pauvreté est de plus en plus aggravé.
Excusez-moi, est-ce que vous pouvez parler un peu plus proche de micro? C'est pas très clair pour...
Ok, d'accord.
Oui.
Là, c'est bon? Donc, l'indice de pauvreté au Togo, c'est aggravé quand on quitte les zones du sud vers les zones du nord. Donc, si on prend ce que j'ai mis sur la présentation, Dans le Grand Lomé, on a un pourcentage de 24,5%. En allant vers le nord, dans les savanes, ça s'accroît jusqu'à 90%. Dans les risques de catastrophes au Togo sont trop nombreuses. Donc, vu le contexte de son paysage, à la suite du programme Vue de Front, on a essayé de répertorier. Non, il faut retourner en arrière, s'il vous plaît. Voilà. Donc, il y a une répartition assez homogène par région des risques de catastrophe. Nous avons les inondations qui sont beaucoup plus fréquentes dans le Grand Lomé au sud et dans la maritime. Il y a les inondations et les sécheresses dans la région du plateau. Ça, c'est quand on monte. Et il y a également les sécheresses qui sont plus récurrentes dans la région de la centrale. Et quand on va à l'extrême nord, dans la région de la savane, nous avons les inondations et les sécheresses. Donc, suivant. Donc, ces risques ces catastrophes ont une conséquence sur les populations. Ce sont les conséquences sociales et les conséquences économiques. Prochain slide, s'il vous plaît. Donc, ces conséquences, je le disais, ont une ampleur qui est pratiquement impossible de faire face ou de rétablir sans vraiment une aide du gouvernement, de la société civile ou de la communauté internationale. Donc, les personnes qui survivent à ces catastrophes peinent à se remettre des pertes en vie humaine et de la disparition de leurs moyens de subsistance. Donc, je dirais que la majorité des personnes qui subissent ces conséquences-là sont beaucoup plus dépendantes des ressources naturelles. Donc, une fois que ces catastrophes surviennent, les moyens de subsistance sont réduits et ils sont obligés de faire face comme ils peuvent. Donc, le gouvernement aujourd'hui est confronté à une immense tâche qui est de restaurer et reconstruire les biens détruits, qui soient à la fois économiques et sociaux. Prochain slide. Donc, il y a des conséquences économiques, comme je le disais. Les biens immobiliers, non, pas ça, retournez s'il vous plaît. Les biens immobiliers, les barrages, les ponts sont détruits par ces catastrophes. À la suite du programme Vue de Front dont je parlais, il y a des images que je vais vous montrer à la fin qui montrent vraiment les destructions immobilières que ces catastrophes font dans nos communautés. Donc, cela impacte sérieusement l'économie du pays et pour être beaucoup plus précis de la commune. Donc, il y a les communautés qui perdent également leurs champs qui sont inondés ou qui deviennent infertiles à la suite des sécheresses. Donc, les ressources, comme je le disais tantôt, sont réduites. Les moyens de subsistance sont très réduits et cela accroît la famine, la pauvreté et l'insécurité alimentaire. Donc, prochain slide, s'il vous plaît. Voilà, donc ça, c'est un petit résumé du programme de fonds que nous avons fait qui montre de façon statistique les menaces importantes, les conséquences, comme je le disais tantôt, les déplacements, les érosions, les pertes en vie humaine, la famine, l'insécurité alimentaire. Et lors de ce programme, les communautés eux-mêmes, ils ont proposé des actions à mettre en place pour pouvoir les permettre d'être beaucoup plus résilients. Donc, je vois que ça ne se voit pas clairement, donc on va passer à l'étape suivante. Prochain slide. Prochain encore. Donc, en attendant que ça ne vienne, je voudrais signaler également que les risques de catastrophe aujourd'hui touchent de manière disproportionnée les personnes, entre les personnes riches et les personnes pauvres. Donc, les personnes pauvres sont les plus touchés par les catastrophes naturelles aujourd'hui parce que, comme je le disais, ils sont plus dépendants des ressources naturelles. Ils ont des moyens de revenus les plus faibles et à cause de ces moyens de revenus faibles, ils sont obligés de vivre dans des zones à risque et dans des habitations fragiles. Ils souffrent aussi de manière disproportionnée de la perte des biens économiques. Les catastrophes naturelles aujourd'hui détruisent les fermes, le bétail, les ateliers, les équipements. Aujourd'hui, les familles sont parfois forcées de vendre leurs biens pour pouvoir subvenir à leurs besoins de base. Et il faut noter que dans certaines régions qui sont exposées à la sécheresse, les familles rurales vendent leur bétail pour acheter de la nourriture, étant moins en mesure de remplacer ces ressources de revenus. Ces pauvres, entre guillemets, risquent de s'enfoncer dans le piège de la pauvreté à long terme. Et ce piège, ils seront incapables de s'en sortir s'il n'y a pas vraiment un accompagnement prévu par les autorités. Donc, ces chocs subis par les pauvres ont souvent des effets néfastes qui se répercutent malheureusement de génération en génération. Étant donné qu'il n'y a plus assez de moyens de subsistance, il n'y a plus de ressources, le nombre de personnes, le nombre d'enfants scolarisés diminue. Et dans ce cas, ce sont les filles qui en pâtissent parce que c'est elles qui sont le plus déscolarisées. Et ils sont amenés à travailler.
Hello, Raisa, you are left with 1 minute to conclude. You are left with 1 minute.
Ok. D'accord. Donc, les enfants sont obligés de travailler pour subvenir aux besoins de la famille. Donc, je vais finir en disant que pour faire face à ces risques de catastrophe, il faut vraiment concevoir et mettre en œuvre des politiques. Au Togo, il y en a déjà. Et il y a également une agence qui est mise en place pour pouvoir aider les personnes sinistrées. Il faut diversifier les moyens de subsistance des populations en faisant la promotion des activités génératrices de revenus dans les communautés rurales. Permettre à la population, à la communauté de participer à les activités d'association et créer des relations intracommunautaires, faire des formations pour permettre aux communautés d'être beaucoup plus résilientes. Le Togo fait déjà d'énormes progrès dans ce sens dans le domaine de l'agriculture, dans le domaine du développement urbain en ayant des ouvrages hydrauliques et d'assainissement. Il lutte également contre l'érosion côtière avec le projet Waka. Et il y a également le programme de gestion intégrée des catastrophes et des terres que le Togo a enclenché il y a quelques années. Donc, je ne sais pas si la présentation se fait toujours, mais il y a quelques photos que je voudrais diffuser qui montrent vraiment l'impact que ces catastrophes ont sur la communauté. Donc, je vous remercie. Allô?
Okay, thank you so much, Raisa, for your presentation. In the interest of time, allow me to also invite once more Oureya to also come and make his presentation, and we are going to give you at most 8 minutes to make your presentation, because we are supposed to be concluding this interesting session for the day. Over to you, OABC. Can you please come in? Yes, can you?
Okay, thank you. I can unmute myself now. I was trying to unmute. Let me thank you for the opportunity to be able to share some thoughts here. It is no longer news that in the last 18 months, families and communities across the world, and indeed Africa, found it very much difficult to cope and survive issues or the impact of COVID-19. And we've seen also income inequality happening a lot, meaning how there's disparity in how income is distributed across populations. When you then also check what COVID has done to us in the last 18 months.
I'm not getting what OABC is saying. Is everyone getting what OABC is saying?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. I don't know if it could be a challenge from the side of Jeunes.
Okay.
Yeah, you're very audible.
Okay, thank you very much. Again, when you then look at the vision that we have crafted for ourselves in terms of equality and inclusion, as we have aspired this within the SDGs, you would notice that this is becoming blur or it's getting more and more blurry. And we're seeing more people getting or becoming more poor, whereas we are making more billionaires all over the world as we find it today. And some countries, when you look at it, they have huge income such that they are able to get themselves guaranteed of the needed vaccines that we need, that they need, that their population needs. However, many of us in Africa are still struggling for us to be able to get the vaccines that we need. And then when you then look at issues around the income inequality, it can be, from a research has said that it can also be equalized, or it is equivalent to when someone has disabilities. Then you are now looking at what can we do and what can we do more better, since I just have 8 minutes, is to say that we must now pay attention to how income inequality is affecting our livelihood, but also more importantly, for us to quickly address many of the impacts that COVID-19 has brought our way. One, we must now look at vaccine delivery. Access to vaccines for all populations across the world is important, and more important for us in Africa. We must now look at how to expand social protection, and that's why the focus of the conversations within this global week of action makes sense, especially within the context of the realities of what we've seen that social protection can do for us. Of course, social protection as a threat can help us guarantee a lot of livelihood, especially in situations where we now have income inequality. And inequality has also affected issues around housing across Africa. We must now prioritize affordable housing such that we ensure that no one is left behind within the housing movement. We've seen how income inequality is also affecting digital connectivity. And we saw the importance of having meaningful connection, having affordable internet, and also having internet that we can all access. And the Alliance for Affordable Internet has described meaningful connectivity as you being able to afford the gadgets for you to connect to internet, and that you're also having stable 4G network. And this is what they defined as meaningful connectivity. Of course, affordability is also there. You must be able to afford internet connection and also be able to access them anywhere, whether you're in a rural community or not. So digital connectivity is an important priority that we must also focus on in Africa. And the internet itself has been, is an enabler for all of the 17 SDGs goals that we're working on at this time, especially when you look at the fact that when people can connect anywhere and anyone can connect, it helps us to bridge many of the gaps that we see today. We must also now focus on low income or issues around inequality within care work and find ways of transforming that such that we can all again stay, excuse me, we can all stay within issues of being able to afford the necessary health care that we have, but also being able to also afford the basic amenities of life, while also ensuring that all that needs to work are able to work and that women are prioritized within the space. Income inequality has also affected issues around our justice system. We see a lot of injustice happening against the poor, especially when the rich have issues with the poor. We must now start looking at people-centered justice systems, where our justice system focuses on the real justice problems that we have in our communities, from land disputes to issues around community or communal clashes. Our justice system must now pay attention to that and prioritize that on an annual and ongoing basis. We've also seen how income inequality and inequality as it were has created issues around generational divide. This generational divide must now be bridged in ways that ensure that we can guarantee youth inclusion. And if we're able to do this, amongst other things that would also have to think through, and amongst a couple of other issues that colleagues that have spoken on this platform have mentioned, then we will then start putting ourselves back on the path of, again, building back better and also building back our, having the right resilience in preparation for the next pandemic that is to come. Over to you.
Okay, thank you so much, Olusei, for a very passionate presentation and also touching on the key, aspects of the issues of inequalities vis-a-vis the issue of COVID-19. We really, appreciate your presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm very much happy to have been, moderating this session, I think, which managed to put on the floor the key issues that we need to be looking at and also to be aware of, even as the Global Assembly for Africa under the GCAP. We want to thank in a big way all our presenters. We have demonstrated excess capacities around these issues. I'm very much happy to be part of this session. In the interest of time, allow me to then call upon Kavengo to lead us into the process of conclusion or concluding this important session that we had today. Over to you, Kavengo. Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. That's
thank
for
you
me,
very much. Okay, thank you very much, Leonard, for that great moderation, together with also Dennis, who did so earlier. I want to thank you very much for having taken us through in such a involving way and ways that we have all felt part of it. Thank you so much also to the people, and especially Ingo and the team that put this event together. We know you've worked tirelessly throughout day and night to make sure that it has happened in a good way, like it has ended up being. I also want to thank our presenters, the several of you who have kept us, informed and very educated on the so many things that are really happening in different parts of this continent. Any presentation that has come from a remote part of one country has been fairly representative of most parts of Africa. So you've been very good in representing all of us in the issues that have been raised here. And I want to say that we were not just complaining. I know the things that have come up here is because we have all been struggling with them, and we are still struggling with them. So we are only sharing with everyone in the world. I want to end at that point and encourage everyone to also continue participating in all the other upcoming sessions, all through to the Global Assembly itself.
And the things we've said here will be captured in the final declaration of the Global Assembly. Thank you so very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.